All right, back again with you. It seems like the trickle of folks has kind of slowed, so wanted to go ahead and get started today with our webinar. So thank you for joining us. Um, we are going to be talking about Oracle EPM Cloud integration at Pacific Life today. My name is Tony Scalise. I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at OneCloud, and I'm joined by Ramesh Bala from Pacific Life. And so this webinar is being recorded. If you need to go back and reference something after, you'll receive an email link with the link to the recording. Or if there's somebody you know that missed the webinar and wants to view it, you can also consume that through our website. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, there is a Q&A panel at the bottom of the webinar screen. You can go ahead and click there and we will filter through the questions likely at the end of the presentation, just because there's a fair amount of content that we want to get through and some nice demos to show you. And so we'll leave questions until the end. And then at that point, we can address anything that was unanswered or anything of that nature. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started? So just a really brief story. I am, if you go back one slide there, Ramesh, I'm an Oracle ACE director. And so I recently got to attend an Oracle ACE director and just ACE program presentation on how to present. And one of the very first things that the presenter did was said, please stop using agenda slides. This isn't 1998. Which I thought was a very interesting premise. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to pivot this, but it gave me time to tell you a good story. So we'll be talking through a few different things here today. Why don't we just go ahead and jump right into the content as opposed to reading you the agenda slide. So brief background, we're not going to inundate you here. What is OneCloud? We are an iPaaS technology. It stands for Integration Platform as a Service, but we're built with the business user in mind. So that process to integrate systems together, to connect them, to exchange data, to automate business critical applications and the processes around them, all of that is what we seek to do and seek to simplify. So to move from that spaghetti code on the left to something that's a bit more streamlined, with OneCloud being the center of that and making it easy to maintain and use. Our mission, what we do, it's help you integrate, automate, and accelerate. You'll see that on all of our social media. So integrate the idea of connecting these systems together, allowing you to exchange data between them without the need for technical expertise or coding. This is very much, again, a business user built platform. So one of the challenges with integration is that it tends to be a little bit complex. We've sought to make that much easier to do, and hopefully you'll see that over the course of today's demonstration. Automating. Automation is one of those things that every organization needs to do. We've given you a platform that helps you do that more efficiently and more easily. Again, no custom coding needed. And then the goal of all of those things of integrate and automate is to accelerate your business processes that depend on timely and accurate data. So again, integrate, automate, accelerate. That's what OneCloud's mission is. We support over 60 different technologies today. You can see there's a wide selection of them. Obviously, today we're going to be talking very much about the Oracle EPM stack, but we do integrate with a variety of other data sources, both on an inbound side as well as an outbound. So we can pull data from different applications and we can load data to those different applications. We can also enable metadata integration and the automation associated with that. If there's a specific technology with which you need to integrate and you don't see it on this list, that doesn't mean it can't make its way onto the list. If you have a need, please reach out to us and let's have a conversation, because we're happy to continue expanding our integration capabilities. The really nice thing about all this is, again, this is all wrapped as a business user function. So when you're thinking about integrating with any one of these technologies, all you need to have is application awareness as opposed to understanding of the technical components required to make that integration work. So next slide, please, Paula or Ramesh. So I'll hand it over to Ramesh at this point to introduce himself and tell you more about Pacific Life as well as their implementation of Oracle EPM and OneCloud.
Right. Thanks, Tony. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening if you're on the time zone. My name is Ramesh Balasubramanian. I'm Business Application Manager for Pacific Life. I report to the Office of the CFO, and I have a team of 3 individuals with all finance background. So we support our EPM products, both on-prem and the cloud products. So we are in the kind of a journey to move from on-prem to the cloud. So that's kind of a brief introduction about me. So about Pacific Life, we are an insurance company, and we have multiple products around annuities and mutual funds. We have 2 primary divisions, like retirement solutions and life division, focusing on retirement products and life products. And we also have a corporate division, which kind of brings in data across the divisions and consolidate and report. Then we also have our accounting department, a centralized accounting department on the corporate side. So that kind of introduction about the company. And if you need to learn more about it, please visit pacificlife.com. We can get more info on the products that we offer. Here, I also like to have a special mention to our partners, Lithia, and also to individuals who kind of helped us with the journey, our cloud journey, and especially around the product. Wayne Pafustian. Wayne, I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name. I thought my last name was hard to pronounce. And Ankit Srivastava, great guys on the OneCloud integration side, very close to the product, and moving on. So we'll talk about our use cases, why we what were we looking on, and what were we trying to solve. So from integration standpoint, when we moved into the cloud, OneCloud is used to automate all the integrations from our source systems to the cloud, and also simplify some of the business process that we currently have on premises. So I will elaborate on that when we go to the next slide, when you see how it was, kind of our deployment. It will give you some overview of why we were trying to simplify the business process. And then deployed EPM and BI products that we have were like DRM. We still have DRM on premises, cloud planning, profitability and cost management, and Oracle Clouds. Essbase, and we also have OBIE on the cloud. And we use narrative reporting for our reporting needs. We also have our financial close and consolidation project in flight, and we are also doing an account reconciliation proof of concept. So our primary source system, like our primary general ledger, is PeopleSoft, and we also have BI applications that we move data back and forth. And we also have other relational sources that we get the data from. So before we went into the cloud, this was kind of our on-premises architecture, where we pretty much had all the products under the on-premises EPM implemented. We were on 11.124. DRM was our primary master data management tool, meaning that it was feeding to all the systems, like not only the EPM, but it was also feeding the PeopleSoft. One of the main reasons we put in DRG was DRM was the DRG component. So we wanted to kind of automate the the metadata maintenance and kind of use the workflows built in, so that it can be so people know where they are in getting their metadata added to the systems, the different systems. So one of the main reasons that we were looking at is we had like a lot of these convoluted batch processings that were built on-prem. When I say convoluted batch processing, we had like Control M triggering different jobs across different systems, also loading data into the on-prem environment and so on. So the issue becomes like when there is a failure in a job. So people would, we had a centralized team that would monitor all the jobs and reach out to us. So it was kind of hard to kind of send them an information to run a job, or like, coordinate and have that, kind of a workflow. One of the reasons is like our business users needed, like especially around the close time, they had a need where they need to have a very quick turnaround time. So this was one of our kind of a pain point that we were trying to address. So OneCloud kind of helps us to solve that problem very easily. And then the enhancements and maintenance was also very time consuming. When we want to add a new Control M job, or we want to automate something, we had to go through different channels and approve process to get the thing going. So it was, again, a time consuming process. And because of this, we were kind of seeing some of the tools were being underutilized because the divisions would kind of hesitate to come to us because of the time to deploy was very long. So we tried to address all these things when we moved to the cloud. So one of the reasons that we looked into, we were looking for a tool to solve all these problems. So from a requirement standpoint, what we were looking from an integration tool is we wanted a single point integration tool managed by the business, meaning like we want to have very minimal IT involvement. We should have a very lean team, and we don't want to just add multiple resources just because we are moving from on-prem to the cloud. So we just want to have a lean team, and we want to give the business tool and the power of the business tool to the hands of the users and simplify the integration process that comes along. So that was one of our primary requirements. And the other one was like scalable, agile, and easy to maintain. So meaning that we don't want to like go through and like read multiple lines of code, and especially when you're trying to troubleshoot, it becomes complex. So we just wanted to try to have a easy to maintain tool, and also a cost-effective tool that can be easily automate business processes, just not from an integration standpoint, but also help to kind of enhance the business process. Then I mean, we can see how we have used the OneCloud tool to enhance our business process later down the presentation. And then a collaborative data integration tool. So, from an EPM standpoint, most of y'all who have worked on EPM know like the data transfer needs to be a collaborative thing, especially if there are multiple products involved. And because of the timing, the close timing, the moving of actuals, moving of budgets, finalization, actualizing the forecast, all these things are all needs to be done timely, and it's more collaborative, meaning that if we are working with different groups, they all need to know when and what is happening. So that is another thing that we were looking at a tool. And the ability for power users to move data, this is another key. So as we said, one of our primary reason that we wanted to move was to give the power of the tool in the hands of business. So we were looking for something like that. And also easily deploy multiple products. So, we just don't want one tool that works for like 2 products, and then I need to go buy something else if I go and look at, if we bring in another tool. So the challenge here, one of the challenges we faced was to get the IT buy-in. Again, the reason is it was nothing from a pushback or anything. It is just like we had another tool. We were using MuleSoft as our primary integration tool. So they were trying to say like, why can't you use MuleSoft? So we had to go through back and forth with IT to kind of explain them and get their buy-in to that. And also we had to go through the architecture and security requirements and look at the other tools, compare and present our case. So want to highlight OneCloud was very good in kind of working with you to help you with all that stuff. So so we were looking when we were looking at the different solutions before we went into OneCloud. So what were the options that were available for us if we don't want to, before getting into OneCloud? So typical implementation we have seen is like batch PowerShell scripting with Control M. So we stick to our legacy process, or we look into something else. And then EPM Automate, which comes with all our EPM integration, which is used for all our EPM cloud products. MuleSoft, and again, that's much complex product for us from this standpoint. And then when we wanted to kind of use the tool with an less IT reliance, so that didn't work for us. So primarily those 3 options are the ones that we had, and OneCloud kind of worked out very well for us. What were the consideration for the selection? Cost, time to deploy, maintenance, and the complexity in introducing the business process. When I say complexity, it's actually avoiding the complexity in introducing the business process. So it's easy to, people can quickly get into the tool, understand the tool, what it could do, and start using the tool right from day one. So from the OneCloud side, we kind of looked from a deployment strategy, we kind of looked at 3 primary areas that we kind of focused using the OneCloud around. So one is maintenance, which is pretty much used by the admin team. When we say the maintenance, these are our typical day-to-day maintenance, like metadata and data load processes across EPM and OAC, and also like moving finalized budget numbers to the the OBIA data warehouse and so on. And then there is a bunch of processes that we wanted to give the user the ability, like a one-stop place where they can just go and which will enable their business processes. So that is the other area. And the third one is kind of the hybrid, where we have both admin teams and the business user, like mostly around the power users, working hand in hand, especially around control data moments, like when you have this finalized, how does this go from this point to point A to point B. So these were the kind of areas that we kind of looked at. So we'll just go through different use cases that, like simple use cases that we have deployed on OneCloud. When I say, for the metadata maintenance, it's all pretty standard, straightforward. These are like 2 chains that we just kind of presented here. One is Planning Cloud metadata integration, and the other was the other is the OAC Essbase metadata integration. So if you look at here, the amount of time it takes to build this chain versus if you wanted to go on, if you look at the amount of code that goes behind this process, it's really time consuming for just not for writing the code, for testing. Then you need to have the specialized skills, etc. And also, like I'm pretty sure, like you guys have some of your would have encountered issues where you have different partners. When you are working with different partners, you have different people writing different kind of codes, especially from an integration standpoint. You'll have one partner writing code in PowerShell versus the batch script. And then as an admin, me or my team members would go and change the batch script. And then I myself don't know what I did later on, like 2 weeks later, I go there and I was like, okay, I don't know what I did here. So to avoid all that confusion, OneCloud kind of presents this, like where it's very simple. You cannot miss out anything with this. So it's pretty much like drag and drop. You pick and choose what you're doing, and there is nothing else you could do. So you can pretty much like quickly come up with this kind of an integration. If you have all the data behind the scenes, you should be able to quickly pull this together. So here's a sample here for the planning. If you look at it, all it does is like pulls the data from a source system, like a jump box where we have all the metadata pushed from DRM. It just brings in all the data and then uploads to the inbox folder, and then run like import jobs in the EPBCS and do a refresh. And if you look at it, there is one list files, and it kind of like spreads across upload. So that means all these processes are loaded parallelly. That means like they're all running parallelly. So if you go into a typical batch scripting, you would be uploading one file at a time, and you'll be running one import at a time. So this is, especially if you have like large uploads and imports, this is a huge win for us. Like this will be a huge win for anybody when you have like processes running parallelly. Similarly for Essbase, we have like pretty much the same process built in. And we're going to show a couple of demos as well around this. And from a business process standpoint, here are some of the areas that we kind of introduced like recently. These are our enhancements. Again, these were not built by our partners. These are like after us learning the tool, we kind of introduced these things into our deployment. The main reason I want to highlight this is the tool itself is very easy to learn once you get a hang of it, and it doesn't take that much of time to get a hang of it too. So here we have like if you're using workforce and planning, I know how big of a pain point it is to kind of do the transfers. Our group, like my team, spend like almost 80 to 120 hours during our budget cycle to do the transfers. Unfortunately, we cannot just like, if you are in the workforce, you cannot like do a bulk transfer. You have to just like go and run the business rule one after the other from to pick and choose kind of a thing. So we built a chain which would just like repurpose the business rule. We'll just load a flat file containing all the required members for the business rule, and just keep running the business rules one after the other. So that really works well for us. We are actually currently using it as we speak. And then run data maps. This is another feature. And also the application security. I know we can do EPM automate scripting, but again, you need to get into the server. As a business user, people would prefer going to a tool like this to go and see what's happening. So the biggest advantage here is like you have everything under one roof, and you can kind of separate them differently and keep them the way that you can keep them organized the way that you wanted to in OneCloud environment. So on the hybrid side, just want to quickly show what's happening here. So this is kind of our Pcmcs environment. It's actually growing laterally right now as we speak. So we have multiple Pcmcs environment. If you guys have worked with Pcmcs, you know how big of the database, how big the database would become when you're running allocations. So we have like different like as I said earlier, we have our different divisions. They have their own pods where they go and run their allocations, and they want to have the ability to run their allocations as and when they want it. And also they wanted to manage their own metadata that goes into Pcmcs. At the same time, you know, run the rules as they, you know, they churn through their process and as they update their drivers. So they're going through these multiple runs. They go through these multiple runs. So during this time frame, how this was done before we actually brought in OneCloud was one of my team members would do this manually. Literally, there was batch scripts set up by our partners. So he would just go sit there. And at that time, we had only one pod. So 3 divisions were coming across. So it was kind of a very difficult situation for us to manage, as well as for the business users, being like sharing one pod. So we kind of spread this, and we give the OneCloud. So now we have different chains set up. It is completely independent. Nobody comes to us. Like they would run a chain. It triggers like a background a job to go and push DRM outlines. Outline metadata. It brings up and loads it into Pcmcs, deploys the app, and they have chains to kind of load their actuals, budgets, and then upload their drivers, run through, and so on. So where we come into play is like when we move the data into the PCMs reporting, which is sit on the top, where we have only one environment. So we have multiple processing environments. When we try to move to Pcmcs reporting, that's when our admin team gets involved. So there is an option in OneCloud where you can have like a kind of a gatekeeper, where it sends an email and say like, hey, can I open the gate so that this chain can move data from here to there. So we haven't implemented yet, but we still do it manually because of our priorities. We're just trying to keep it there. So it's kind of a hybrid approach where your team, like admin team, is working along with the business users. And the business users are doing the majority of the work, so they are kind of very close to the tool. So the benefits of OneCloud: ease of adoption, use, maintenance, and time to deploy. As I said earlier, keep repeating this because it's really easy to adopt and to deploy something. And single point solution that can connect to multiple applications, not only around EPM, but as you saw Tony's initial in Tony's introduction, all the connectors that are available. So whatever source systems that you are able to bring in, they're able to connect to. Then an acceptable cost of enhancement and maintenance, from not only from the tools standpoint, it's also from the cost that the divisions, when they come to us to build something. And also ability to give the user access to things that were not possible before, especially smart push, the business rules, secure business rules, especially around moving data from doing the transfers. So that was one of the biggest pain points. Like I think we are seeing a big benefit there. And then the data security audit capability across the different applications. So we know who's doing what, who's moving data from what, where to where, all that stuff. This kind of enables us to, have that increased data quality across the multiple applications that we manage. We have the other thing is I want to highlight here is like we have a very good product support and development team ready to help on your use case. So if you have any specific use case, they are ready to help listen to your needs. And we do have, we had like 2 or 3 enhancements done for us, and they would come in within a release or 2, depending on the complexity. So they are very helpful in kind of helping you with that. And the product itself comes with tons and tons of help. And there was a case where I actually wanted to go and submit a ticket. I thought there was a problem. As I was typing, I could see on the right side of the screen, helps popping out saying okay, let me go and look at it. Oh, here you go. That's not a problem. It's something that I need to do on my side to fix it. So things like that. It's very helpful, and the support is very responsive as well. So, as a product highlights and features, we have these iterators, as I said, where you have, if you have a file, you have 100 records, and you wanted to run through a business rule 100 times, you don't need to build 100 chains for that. All you do is use these iterator function, or you don't want to repeat the process over and over again within the chain. So use the iterators, load the file, the tool on behind the scenes, kind of submit the jobs one after the other based on your input file. It counts, keep tracks of all the number of records and so on. And the resources is something as a nice feature where you can have some key files, period files, or periods specifically around EPM periods, or valid business units or entities, cost centers, stored in the cloud environment. So this is stored within the OneCloud environment. You can quickly go and source it from there instead of uploading every time from your on-prem. And the file utilities, these are great utilities that you can go and manipulate different, create directory, delete directory, list all the contents of the directory, number of files from the directory, etc. So imagine doing all these things in order for you to write in the code. Think about writing custom code on your jump server for all these things. They do all these things behind the scene in OneCloud. Then the Tableau Transformation and the advanced query, these are huge lifesavers for us. You can actually take a flat file, add columns and headings, and use that as a table to run your SQLs. So it's easy for you to split out a specific set of data and filter out whatever you wanted to do. And then runtime user inputs and file uploads. So you can have people loading their files and also providing inputs there. For example, you want to set substitution variables across environments like OAC or planning or PCM and all that stuff, right? So you can have the user enter a substitution variable, and you can have chains submitting all that stuff. And then you have conditional execution, where it checks for certain conditions and change the behavior based on the condition. And then you also have the script runner for hybrid implementation, where you have your traditional batch scripts or PowerShell scripts that you can trigger from OneCloud. So these are some of the highlights and features based on our personal experience. And there are tons and tons of other features like we are kind of learning and exploring as we go. All right, it's time to jump into the demo. So hopefully you can see my screen.
We can,
so
Ramesh.
Okay, cool. So this is our environment. Just quickly kind of show you our workspace. This is kind of our integration workspace. So here you see like you have different, different workspace that you can have depending on what you want to do. So you can have a dev, prod, backup, sandbox, or you can have one workspace for EPM planning, one for Pcmcs, whatever, whichever way you want to do. So we kind of kept everything together, and you can reorganize them whenever you feel like. So when it becomes harder, then you can go that way. So I just created one for demo. So we have a few chains here to show. So this is the workforce transfer. So here you see like there's a runtime file upload. And then I just want to copy that file into my jump box just to want to make sure like, okay, what is that transfer is happening? So if I want to go trace back, I know who submitted and what was that data that was got running in this chain. And there is this CSV to JSON conversion where it basically takes the file and converts into a key pair kind of a combination. And then it's just the list file content to kind of see what's happening and then use that in the business rule. So if I look at the business rule, this is the iterations I kind of talked about where you enable this feature. So if you have 10 records in your input file, the business rule will run 10 times based on the input file you provided. So I just execute it. So if you look at this is what basically happening. So let me share my. I just want to show the input file. So there are only 2 records for the demo purpose. So these are my input files. So I'm just taking a specific format. I'm just employee, month, year, scenario from to cost center and the business unit I'm transferring. So what it does is it takes those 2 records and convert into this JSON combination. And then that's my file that gets converted. And then it running the business rule. So here, if you look at the value part of the execution, it shows the outputs. And it basically gives you what's your input that is being used here. So the application name, all the environment information, and then the output is where it basically tells you like, so when it ran the first time, what was the value? So this was the first record that executed. And if I go and look at the second one, that's my second record and so on. So if you want to if there is an error, it's easily traceable. So again, imagine this in a batch script or whatever you're doing, and then you can see how easy it is here. So that's one. And the other one. So this is the one that you saw in the presentation deck. So I just execute this. So what it's doing is, if you see this, it's basically sourcing the files from here. The files from DRM are pushed into this folder. So these are the files like account, business unit, cost center, project, and vendor. I'm taking all these 5 files. And then I'm moving into a temporary file or like a backup file just in case I wanted to store them, what happened. Upload and import. That was so quick. And now it's doing a refresh. This is nothing but it is running another chain. Here, this is just a kind of, we created a separate chain. So whenever we want to refresh, we just don't want to use it, just call another chain. So it's kind of you can call a chain within a chain. That's another cool feature if you want to kind of reuse chains. So we just use that to do a refresh, and that's done. So it's probably around under 2 minutes. Again, it depends on your size of your application. And then the loading of actuals. So here, this one is basically, okay, let me start. So this one basically uses some of the features that I was talking about. Basically, it's reading the file from the resource. So we have a resource file here. It's called period mapping. We have all our, it's something like, if you're familiar with FDME, it's something like our FDME period file, right? So we just keep this file here. We just take this file to kind of use our, manipulate all the data in the way that we want. And then it basically splits different, it kind of do all the transformation with the periods, which kind of goes along with the requirements from a different tool perspective. So it does all it reads one data record from a period standpoint. It converts to multiple period format in which the tool is expecting, right? So that's all it does. And then it reads like a business unit file where it's all legal. I mean, the set of business units that we want to load data into. And you have SQLs here, which basically is executing a SQL against an on-prem database through the ground runner. It's just like an EPM Automate. It's a lightweight client that you install when you're doing the OneCloud installation. That has access to all your on-prem environment, SQL, I mean, the tables and whatnot. So it basically executes like a select query on an Oracle database, and it even gives you all the information here. So it's easy to kind of track back and see what's going on. So that's, and then all the transformation. And then there is this utility which basically converts like a CSV file to planning format, a native format. It's all built into OneCloud. It comes as part of the adapter. You just take it and just drag and drop, feed the file, it loads it. And they upload the file, clear, and execute, and then run the post aggregation. It's pretty straightforward. And again, the data load, it's under 2 minutes. The same data load before migration in our on-prem used to run through FDME and used to run for at least 30 minutes, depending on the volume of the data. So we are running 2 periods at a time. We used to do the same 2 periods on the on-prem world. It's a one-to-one. So that's the demo from my side. I think Tony wants to show you one more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ramesh. And if you flip back to the slide deck, I believe the next slide actually has an embedded video. So what we did, folks, was record one of the particular demos that we wanted to show you here because of the time that it takes. What's interesting about what you'll see here is a number of different things that Bala called out, or I keep calling you Bala, I'm sorry, Ramesh. I used to have somebody on my team named Bala. But you can see here right now, this chain is actually going off and it's doing those parallel branches. So the right-hand side completed, and that's done. And what we've done is we've sped this up tremendously. This particular integration takes about an hour to run based on the volume of data being produced. And you're going to see that in a moment here where we're actually going to show you, as Ramesh was showing you there on the screen, when you click onto a particular command in the OneCloud chain, you can get different information about what that command is doing, what data was produced, so on and so forth. So one of the things that I think is important is this information, right? So in this case, we look at the allocated data, and in there you can see there's 78 million records of data, and it's almost 2 gigs, that data file. It's a pretty significant volume of data. When we look here, after all the conversion and some of the things that we've done, we've broken that down into just over 2 million records. And we've done that through this SQL that's embedded in one of the commands. All that took about an hour to run, 1 hour, 52 seconds there. We can also see that we actually moved this from our cloud onto the ground. And all that, again, was done in about an hour. And so one of the things I want to kind of draw out, that as you looked at the different things that Ramesh has shown you here, is the idea that some of these things might look pretty complex. Tony, you told us that this is a business-friendly application. I've got these little circles all over the place and they're all connected and it looks like a lot's going on. And that's actually by design. What we've done is, instead of being incredibly prescriptive about how you have to do things in OneCloud, what we've done is given you the individual capabilities and allow you to put them together as you need to service your integration needs. And so while it may seem like a lot of different steps to connect, it's done that way on purpose to give you the ultimate flexibility. And again, you saw as Ramesh pulled up those commands, it's simply filling in a particular parameter or an input on that particular command, specifying what is the name of the business role that I want to run, or what is the application to which I'm going to connect. All of those different things are, again, UI focused. You're not writing any code in here. Now, obviously, we've talked about SQL a couple of times here. There are certain SQL transformations that we can support. There's also SQL that we need to run and go grab information from relational sources, PeopleSoft on premises, for example. And so one of the questions we usually get asked is, do I need to stand up a SQL database to support OneCloud? And the answer to that is no. The SQL that's embedded within OneCloud comes with the application. So you don't need to worry about engaging with your IT team, getting your database administrator to set up a database, to tune it, to monitor it, to back it up. All those things are managed through OneCloud natively. And so that's a really nice way to have the power of that SQL when you need to do some additional transformations that are out of the box commands don't do natively, but still give you the power to achieve them. The other thing is we have a new product coming out within the next quarter here, where we will give you even more capability that's user interface based to allow you to do graphical transformations of data. So if we think about the different capabilities that exist out there, FDMEE for a lot of the Oracle EPM customers, or cloud data management, the way you're used to maintaining those mapping tables, defining this is what it is in my source system, this is where it needs to go in my Oracle EPM system. That relationship and that transformation will be managed within a graphical interface within OneCloud. And so that's an exciting coming product. We're really excited to tell the market more about it over the coming weeks. But I just figured I'd give you a little bit of a teaser just to keep you interested in what we're doing and all the fun stuff that we're bringing to market.
Yeah, like I think I probably forgot to tell you, like this is very simple. Like you just pull in which environment you create connections here quickly. I'll just show you that. Like you just create your connections which point to, you know, what's your environment you're trying to connect, um, and then just go, you know, pull that environment and just say like, okay, what data you're trying to load into. And if you're running a rule, you're basically saying what rule you're running in which environment. And when you're promoting the chain from, say, dev to production, the promoter will ask you like, okay, here you have your dev. What are you going to, when you promote it to the production environment, what is your connection going to be? So all you're going to say is drag and say it's going to the production, and you're done. And you say it's a 3-step process, like source, target, pick the chains from which environment to which environment and what runners, and save. It gets promoted and you are up and running. And it's a good thing is like you have audit capabilities. You can put different versioning, and then it keeps tracks of change, what happened, and you can put in your comments why you're promoting from one environment to the other and so on. So I think that pretty much brings to end, and yeah, a few lessons learned and what's next from our side. So from lessons learned, introduce the tools to the user community early to adopt, so that, you know, they're part of your implementation starting from the beginning, especially in the cloud. If you're going to the cloud, start looking at an integration tool right from the beginning. Test, test, test. Again, this is something as like a mantra that you've been hearing from all our experts across different all the industries. Test before you deploy. And foolproof chains, that is something that we are learning as we go forward. We just introduced something like, oh, I just put in a different, you know, I uploaded a file. Oh, by the way, there is a space between, you know, all they do is like use Excel, so that they don't see a space between columns, and that creates a problem. So, you know, try to add logics there to clean up the, all you do is like add an extra step using the text transformation, clean up the header, so on. So that's what I meant by foolproofing. And what's our next from our standpoint? Introduce the tools to our power user groups for their day-to-day operations wherever it's applicable. Make their life simpler so they don't need to log into different areas, or we have multiple EPM products. They don't need to go into like different jump from one part to the other and so on. So we give them as part of our day-to-day. And clean up and enhance existing processes, business processes using the tool itself. So, and whenever a new feature, like when Tony said, like we are looking forward for that for our FCCS implementation. So we are excited for that. Quickly, and Q&A. So I saw like there was a question. How do you move data between Pcmcs? Move data between Pcmcs applications that typically have different dimensionality. Yes. So you saw that in the demo that Tony put together. So all it does is like it takes your dimensionality. You need to have export of your metadata, like your snapshot, metadata snapshot from your PCM environment, and you need to kind of there is a biz app that basically there's a feature in the biz app that would combine these things for you. You don't need to do anything, and it transforms the data in the way that you want, and then it gives you all the data in a column format. So all you do is to write a SQL on top of it. And I think the second one was on the SQL environment, which Tony answered. You don't need a separate SQL. And is OneCloud compatible with HFM? Yeah, yes, they do have a HFM, I think 11.124, Tony, on-prem, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. So we support HFM 11.124 and forward, so 11.2 as well.
So the questions.
One more slide. I think we had some other questions that we anticipated may come up. Okay. While we wait for that, wanted to say thank you to everybody. Hopefully this was useful and you could see how OneCloud can fit into the Oracle EPM as well as BI ecosystem, both on premises and in the cloud. Thank you very much, Ramesh, for taking the time to do this, to tell us the story of Pacific Life and how OneCloud fit into your overall program. And we're excited to continue partnering with you and helping you get the most out of your investment in OneCloud.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, please, if you have any questions, my email is in the deck. Please reach out to me. More than happy to share my experience in using the product.
Okay.
There's how does OneCloud keep up with Oracle APIs? Tony, you want to take that?
Sure. So that's a question that often gets asked from the different prospective customers as well as customers. So we do have a partnership with Oracle, Oracle Development. So we do get alerted to changes in their APIs. And as well, we go through regular reviews of Oracle EPM APIs, as well as the OAC ones, and make sure that we're accounting for something, because, you know, let's face it, sometimes somebody forgets to tell somebody. So we do regular testing on our what we call biz apps or connectors into those things to make sure that we're continuing to stay ahead of those and make sure that you're still fully functional.
So there's a question, do you have any time saving estimate of using EPM Automate versus OneCloud? Definitely from coding perspective, maintenance perspective, and also you know, from a maintenance standpoint, if something changes, like as kind of goes back with the old, I mean the prior question, if there is a change in EPM Automate, we need to keep up to date. So that kind of, you know, moving this with OneCloud, it kind of takes away that. So OneCloud does that for us. So we don't need to keep up with all the changes that Oracle is doing. And custom coding, and that, you know, all this complex coding that involves, and also the running parallel and things like that. It's a huge saving. And trying to keep the tool close to the business versus involving IT and going through that, the change management process.
And then Ramesh, just to kind of remind folks on the webinar that are still here, about how long did it take you and Lithia to implement OneCloud?
I would say about 4 weeks max. Maximum 4 weeks. And these are like, some of them are real complex ones, especially around the Pcmcs ones. I would say 4 weeks is all it took. There's another question. Did you see the MuleSoft could have supported your requirements? I kind of, yes. The only thing there is again, I'm not a MuleSoft expert. Like, from what I have learned is you got to create your APIs in MuleSoft to have all these connectors built from the scratch, and then kind of use those connections. And then again, you don't have that flexibility of maintaining the APIs and things like that. So every time something changes, you got to go to the MuleSoft team, and again, having that IT reliance on there. That's one thing. And one of the features we really wanted is the human workflow, meaning like you want to have that gatekeeping in between, where you don't want to have some crazy stuff going on. So that's one thing we were looking for, and that has that, which MuleSoft did not provide us.
Thank you for that perspective, Ramesh. It's always good to hear from the customer what they think, and as they went through their evaluation of different options, why the outcome of where you landed. So with that, I think we are just about at time here. So thank you everybody for attending, and hopefully again, it was useful. And please feel free to subscribe to our website and our blog. We have some exciting announcements coming out, and we also have some good events coming up soon in terms of webinars and whatnot. So hope to hear from you, and thank you again, everybody, for joining. Have a great day.